Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. Today I'm going to be doing the Intimidating TBR Tag. I was tagged by Justin at Triumphal Reads and by Tristan at L-Space-Books. So thank you, Justin and Tristan, for the tag. I had a lot of trouble with this tag. I think this tag is intimidating me more than my TBR or my pile of possibilities. And maybe my answers as we go along will reveal why that is. So the first question is, what book have you been unable to finish? Well, the one that I've been talking about lately that I have not been able to finish and I just put aside is Lori Gottlieb's Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. And this is a book that I originally started because I wanted to read it for Mental Health Awareness Month. And it just wasn't working for me. I just wasn't becoming engaged by the voice, by the setup of the book. It just wasn't working, and I put it aside, and I decided to read something else. I decided to read Kay Redfield Jamison's newest book, and that worked much better for me right now. But you know, I don't want this book to be an albatross around my neck. I think I will eventually come back to this and finish it. Okay, number 2. What book have you yet to read because you just haven't had the time? I don't have an answer for this because I always have the time. When I was working full-time, when I was teaching 5 classes a day, 4 different courses sometimes, I often didn't have time to read what I wanted to read. You know, I would always be reading 3 or 4 different works that I was teaching, and then I would have something that I was reading at home, you know, just for pleasure. But, you know, I could never have participated in reading events or you know, anything like, you know, what I'm doing now. Now I've retired from teaching and I have all the time in the world. So time is never the reason why I haven't gotten to something. I read a lot. I read every day. I read many hours a day and night. And so time is never the issue. If I'm not reading something, it's not because I don't have the time. What book have you yet to read because it's a sequel? So last week I could have answered this question truthfully because I was waiting to read a book, but I hadn't read what I thought was the first part yet, so I was waiting for the first part to arrive. And that was, you know, I'm new to reading Ray Bradbury, and I wanted to read Something Wicked This Way Comes, which I am now actually reading. But I was wanting to read this, but I was under the impression that this was part 2 of a 3-part series, with the first part being Dandelion Wine and the last part being Farewell Summer. And then some of my BookTube friends made clear to me that it's a very loose series, in that they all, you know, are set in the same place and time, but that they're not true sequels. So once I understood that, I stopped waiting for Dandelion Wine to arrive, and I started reading Something Wicked This Way Comes, which I'm still reading. And I think because I'm really into Ray Bradbury right now, I will go back and read Dandelion Wine. But you know, I was just kind of holding off because I misunderstood what's really going on in this trio. Okay. What book have you yet to read because it's brand new? Well, I have 2 for that. I pre-ordered Amor Towles' Table for Two, which is actually a collection of stories. And I also had pre-ordered Colm Toybean's Long Island, which is a sequel to Brooklyn. These are two authors that I adore, and as soon as I heard that they had books coming out this spring, I pre-ordered them, and they arrived on publication day. When I was in the middle of, I think I was still reading for the BookTube Prize and in the middle of Horror Mayhem and all the things that I've been talking about. So I haven't gotten to these yet, but they're coming soon. These were books that I was waiting for. Okay. What book have you yet to read because you read a book by the same author and didn't enjoy it? I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anything on my shelves. I couldn't find anything on my current pile of possibilities. I couldn't find a book that I've just put off reading because I didn't like something else that author wrote. And that's probably because if I didn't like the first thing that I read by the author, I probably wouldn't have purchased a second book. I mean, sometimes, we say I'll give so-and-so another chance because everybody loves this author, so maybe I'm just missing something, but I couldn't find anything that I'm waiting to read that I haven't read because I didn't like something that the author wrote. So not trying to cop out. I really have racked my brains over this tag, and I couldn't find anything. What book have you yet to read because you're just not in the mood for it? Okay, this was another one that I thought might be a possibility for mental health awareness. And this is Jonathan Rosen's The Best Minds, a story of friendship, madness, and the tragedy of good intentions. And this is a really important book, and it's been a really successful book. And I have been told it's still in the running in the BookTube Prize, though it wasn't in any of the groups that I read. It's got all kinds of accolades, and when I was trying to figure out what to read for Mental Health Awareness Month, I did start to read it, and I know this is a book I'm going to read, but I just didn't want to go to this dark place, and I just put it down before I even really made any significant dent. Not in the mood. I was, and this is going to sound funny that reading all of this horror, but I was having fun in May, and I was reading things that I never would have thought I would have read, and I was just having a really good time with the books that I did select and with the stories that I selected, and that was good enough. And I just didn't want to go to a place of deep psychosis and schizophrenia and murder in a true story. I didn't want to do that, but I know that this is a book that I'm definitely going to come back to, but I've got to be in the right mood for this. What book have you yet to read because it's humongous? Not copping out here. I don't avoid books because they're big books, because they're long. I read a lot of big books. I mean, in this year alone, I've reread Dickens' Bleak House. I've reread George Eliot's Middlemarch. I reread Dickens' David Copperfield. I mean, these are big books. I just read for the first time, as I've been talking about ad nauseum, I just read Les Miserables, which is, I think, the longest book I've ever read at 1,300 pages. I don't avoid books because of because they're humongous, as the prompt says. Um, but if I, were really pressed to come up with something, I just looking at my shelves, I thought, I have not read Stephen King's The Stand. And I know that people swear by this. People say that this is their favorite Stephen King novel. Many people that I respect love this book. I can't say that I haven't read it because it's gigantic, and it is. It's like over 1,100 pages long. But I I've had mixed experiences, I think, with Stephen King. There are Stephen King books that I have really enjoyed. I've spoken on this channel about my love of The Green Mile and how I wish more people would read it and talk about it. But, I didn't love my reread of Carrie. I had trouble with Holly. I was so horrified and grossed out by that I really struggled to get through that. So I think it has more to do with my tentative feelings about King rather than the size of the book. So, but I know lots of people who have this on the top of their list, and I'm sure there's good reason why this is a favorite book. Excuse me. What book have you yet to read because it was a cover buy that turned out to have poor reviews? I don't think I've ever bought a book because of the cover. I have only recently become even remotely interested in the covers of books. I can't think of a book that I bought because I liked what was on the cover. I know I have not bought books because there's a movie scene, a scene from a miniseries or a movie on the cover. I might not buy that book, but I can't think of any books that I bought because of the cover. I do read reviews, and I watch reviews, and I listen to reviews, and I read review journals. So I would tend to make a choice about a book because I've already read probably several reviews. So I can't think of a book that I bought because I liked the cover and then found out that the reviews were really bad. So I feel like I'm copping out on these questions, but really struggling with this. Okay, what book have you yet to read? Oh no, that was the end of that. The next one is number 9. What is the most intimidating book in your TBR pile? So for that, I'm going to go with the book that I'm about to reread for the Ulysses read along. I'm going to hold up my new, fresh copy of Ulysses. This will be my 3rd read of Ulysses. So I can't say I'm intimidated by this because it's a difficult book, because of things that I've heard about it. I mean, I already know about it because I read it in college and I read it in graduate school. And I know about its difficulty already, and that's not what's intimidating me. The last time that I read this, which was a long time ago, it was an incredibly powerful experience. Part of it, I think, had to do with things that were going on in my personal life. And I was reading this book, and it happened to just sort of gel with, or, it tapped into feelings that I was having, and I was grieving at the last time that I read this. but it was such a powerful reading experience. I was just explaining to another booktuber that I actually dreamt about this book while I was reading it the last time, and I felt like I was, living in this book. So I'm feeling intimidated and a little bit scared to reread it now, many years later. I guess I'm a little bit worried about how I might react to it this time, or coming to it from a much older perspective and later perspective in life. I was very young when I read it last. So just the thought of revisiting it is intimidating, and I can't even fully articulate what that's about. But that's what I'm feeling right now. Like, what if it isn't a powerful experience this time? So, okay. And then the last question is just to tag some people. So if you're not intimidated by this tag and you would like to do this tag, please consider yourself tagged. The questions will be in the notes, but I will also tag some other booktubers. I'm going to tag Stuart Griffin, Ellen Made Book Club, My Messy Bookshelf, Books and Bocadillos, Joshua Crebo Reads, and Bookish Chaz. Okay. As always, I thank you for watching. I hope that you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.